Here we are again, happy as can be, all good friends and jolly good company. It's the Guerilla Cricket Grumpy Old Man podcast.
Just once in a decade, in a lifetime maybe, the world of entertainment is disrupted and utterly elated by something entirely new.
Good Lord.
And now for something completely different.
It's Grubby here, and with me I have the bear, who you won't be able to see, looks exactly like Colonel Kurtz in Apocalypse Now. Hello, the bear.
Hello there. Well, it's kind of homage to Hendo, although we haven't seen him much on Guerilla recently. In his dying days on Guerilla, before he took his time off, he always used to look like Colonel Kurtz.
Is this something we should know?
No, not at all. It just hasn't been on for a while. But he always used to sit there in the dark with his beard shining through and some little light on his face, and it always reminded me of Colonel Kurtz.
And also not Fred Titmus, who's been to the cinema recently. How are you, not Fred?
I have been to the cinema, but that is far from being the most interesting thing about me. I think actually the bear. This is all moot because the viewers can't, or the listeners can't see him. He looks like one of those characters in the very terrible late Star Wars films, as opposed to the very terrible early Star Wars films. But he looks like he's got a sort of a hood up, and
it's sort of dipped
dark
in the middle
and mysterious.
of it.
Yeah, that's on my desert island. You can see in the background, with my palm tree over my left shoulder.
Well, that's enough of telling them.
I'm a Jedi.
What they can't see.
I'm a Jedi on holiday,
That must be it. Well, chaps, we do have an Ashes to deconstruct.
Oh God, do we have to?
No, we don't. We can talk about whatever we like because this is an alternative podcast. So, are Russia going to invade the Ukraine? This is the big question of the week.
Ooh.
I'm going. Well, we have to put a time frame on it if we're going to bet on these.
I'm going for a draw in 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to say the end of January is what, Monday?
Yeah.
So I think it's a toss up. 10 to 11. 10 to 11 they invade by Monday.
No.
Nah.
20 to 1.
20 to 1 on that. Yeah. No,
1,
if they haven't invaded by the end of March, I think they're not going to bother.
Well, that's the Russia and Ukraine done. So the Ashes.
Yeah.
Gents, well, I have to say, I watched very little of the Ashes because the Australians insist on having it on at a ridiculous time of the day for the first world, and frankly, there wasn't very much about it that really gave me the incentive to do lots of all-nighters.
Did any of it surprise any of us? The only thing that vaguely surprised me is that England made an even feebler fist of it than even the most pessimistic of us might have thought.
Okay, I'm going to defend a little bit of this. Well, first of all, I'm going to.
Well, let's hope your defence is better than Haseeb Hamid's.
Well, exactly. Well, getting on to that, yeah, you were totally right about Haseeb Hameed and Joss Buttler. I will concede that. Joss Buttler might be. Most keepers should be able to keep standing back, but Joss Buttler clearly can't and shouldn't be anywhere near a Test side anymore. I've given that one up. Throw him out. Like the baby with the bathwater. You're fucking useless, I have to say. Get rid of him.
Yep.
He's never coming good, the blue-eyed gimlet one. Haseeb Hameed, well, started off okay with a couple of 20s. I mean, it was shocking. I mean, we had our highest partnership was 60, and that was in the last innings in a bloody
Started
series.
off well with a couple of 20s. I mean, how high do you want to set the bar?
Do you know the joke is, if you could guarantee both England openers getting 25 every single game, every single innings, you would take that. You would definitely take that.
Yeah. Well, our problem comes from that, doesn't it? The fact that we're always bloody 10 for 3. It doesn't matter who you throw in. We're always 10, 10, 20 for 3.
But for 2, they were most of the series. They did have what partnerships there were. There were a couple of partnerships between Milan and Root early in the series when they were only 2 down. But yeah, the batting was just hopeless, and I don't think anyone expected it to be. I don't think any of us expected it to be much better.
No.
I think we hoped that Stokes might score some runs. He didn't.
He wasn't fit.
He wasn't
we
fit.
We hope that Root would score some runs. He sort of
did.
He sort of did. but we looked up and down the rest of the lineup and we thought, where are the runs coming from?
Well, I mean, you have to say, I mean, we've said this many a time, but cricket is as much a psychological game as a physical game, right? And over court A, the first test, won the toss, decided to bat in overcast conditions on a green pitch for the wrong side. I mean, that was just nuts. Well, I mean, I thought, it was odd pick for the first test, and I said this on air, but I kind of thought it was a kind of guilt trip, wasn't it, by the management? It's like we couldn't have a balanced side over the summer because we didn't have Stokes in the side, so we had to pick 4 seamers all summer, even though we kept getting told we really want a spinner in the side, but we didn't have room for him. Then suddenly Stokes is back in the side because he's come back, not played cricket for 6 months. So we've got space for a spinner, so we'll stick a spinner in, even though it's a green top and it's overheads, and then we'll decide to bat as well. Just to make it really fucking stupid,
Utterly ludicrous, Ben.
And the thing that was quite ludicrous. Pointed out was that, the first game is so important. The first session, the first game, and who was taking the new ball for England at the start of an Ashes series? Who was taking the first over? It was Chris Wokes. Now, I've got a lot of time for Chris Wokes. I like Chris Wokes, but there's no way in hell that he should be taking the first ball for England in a Test match, let alone a Test match in Australia.
Certainly not in Australia. Maybe at home in late May at Lords.
Against Ireland at Lords, maybe. But even then, I can think of 3 people who you'd rather have. It was just England have got a poor team, but they insist on making it harder for themselves by persistently making terrible selections and decisions.
This is it.
Well, even in those,
so some of the issues you could categorise as systemic, and I don't propose that we go into a massive deconstruction of the county system. That's being done plentifully elsewhere, and I'm bored to the fucking back teeth of it. So some of it is structural, if you like. But then, as you say, Fred, we don't help ourselves tactically, if you like, by poor decision making, both on the pitch and in terms of selection.
And it's not after timing.
A coach who is clearly, I'm afraid to say, not bright enough, and a captain who is not captain material, and I've said that all through his captaincy. I want him to concentrate on his batting, let him do that, and let's get someone else who knows what he's doing on the field of play as a captain, who knows how to set fields, who knows how to manage bowlers and all that sort of stuff. So it's a combination, it's a deadly combination, I'm afraid, of the kind of the longer term structural strategic issues versus the tactical ones, and everything coming together in a perfect storm, which has made it, I don't know, probably, even though we didn't lose 5-0, the most kind of disheartening.
Saved by an hour and a half's rain in Sydney.
Yeah, whatever.
True.
That's it. That's all I've got to say.
Well, I mean, I surprisingly, I watched virtually every bloody minute of the first 3 tests anyway. And the annoying thing was, you look at it in a round and you go, yeah, we got hammered 5-0, but there were times, I mean, in the second test, we dropped 11 catches. We bowled Warner with a no ball in the first game. Yeah, and he got 2 90s in the first game. Did pretty much fuck all for the rest of the series, right? Once Brody came back and had his number once again, funnily enough.
Strange
that. But I mean, he got 2 90s in the first 2 tests. He was bowled off a no ball. We had Labuschagne dropped in.
Was that the huge no ball that Stokes knew was going to get overturned? He didn't celebrate.
Didn't even celebrate the
win. I think so. And then, we had Labuschagne dropped 3 times on his way to 100. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, there were times, actually, if England had caught their catches, not bowled no balls. I mean, these are all ifs, ands, and buts.
They may have been close to the games, but would they have won?
No, I'm not sure if they'd have won. But the point is, as I was saying, cricket's a psychological game. So by the end of the series, you're shot, right? And so,
well, not even by the third test.
Kind of by the third. Even in the third test, we had chances, and then we let things go. We were still dropping catches in the third test.
If ifs and ands were pots and pans, there'd be no need for tinkers, as Aunt Lou once said on EastEnders.
I mean, we got lucky with that draw, didn't we? I mean, Butler got dropped. Well, it wasn't dropped. Just they didn't go for it when he was on naught through Harris's catch, went through first slip, and Warner walked out of the way, and Harris didn't go for it. And then
This is tactical. The Australians did a number of things over the course of the series to ensure that bad players continue to get selected.
Well, there wasn't anyone better, was there? That's
giving Bairstow a ton and dropping Butler and all this kind of thing. I mean, this is good long-term thinking. And the series was won, and they're thinking, well, how can we make sure we win the next series? Well, let's make sure they keep Bairstow in there for a start, because that, he's a walking wicket.
I take your hat off to him. He played very well. Got the runs that he got. But the only reason he's back in the side is because of the paucity and the the awful performances of the others who've been in there. He's basically been in and out of that fucking rotating doors more times than
rotating doors, as they're called.
Well, yes. There was I've said this
more times than a spurned, unwanted salesman in an office block.
I've said this to a few people, and there was a really interesting lunchtime segment where Cookie looked obviously absolutely boiling over with how inept England's batting were in the final test. He did a lunchtime segment, and he went through, I think it was Bairstow, he went through Pope, and he went through Crawley, and where their trigger movements and where they end up to face that first ball. Pope got bowled middle stump around his legs, for fuck's sake. I mean, these guys were starting on off stump and going.
So did Labuschagne, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Well, exactly that. True, but I mean,
a rare moment of levity in the series.
Well, the point was that they, everyone's going, but Smith does it, da 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 da, and they showed where Pope and Crawley were starting on off stump, going right across and defending at balls on an 9th stump line. And then they'll go and because everyone thinks that's what Smith does, but then when actually watch Smith, he starts on leg stump, and when a ball is delivered, his head's right on off stump, right?
Surely they're not trying to copy Steve Smith. I mean, that would be ludicrous. Ollie Pope's got a very sound technique. There are three. It's technique, temperament, and talent. There you go. The 3 T's. Just made it up. We've got bags of talent, but temperament and technique. And sometimes both of them are sadly lacking in most of our top 6 in most games that you see us play.
Yeah.
There's a bit of David Brent about that analysis. I'm sure somebody will deconstruct it and say technique and talent, well, temperament. Anyway, England batting was shocking, and you can't see them beating anybody in the world. Any of the top 5 or 6 Test teams without better batting.
Well, I don't know. You see, this is the thing. I mean, we were doing this on WhatsApp, weren't we? When was the last time Australia won in England? 2002.
That is true. But they have had a couple of drawn series, and they win Test matches regularly.
Yes. Well, that's a difference, isn't it? I mean, it was interesting that Groves pointed out they won 25-15 in total tests, i.e. we can't win a test out there. They can win some tests here.
And even some of them they've lost. You're thinking of Headingley 2019.
Yeah.
You could play that 100 times and they'd win it 99. But yes, it's true. They haven't won for England for over 2 decades. And any Australians listening, I think you should be rightfully ashamed of your performance and should sack everybody involved in Australian cricket. But England have got to play in the West Indies in a month's time or 6 weeks, whenever it is.
Yeah.
Are they going to score runs in the West Indies? The West Indies have got a decent bowling attack. The wickets aren't great for batting. I can't see England scoring 300 in the first innings of a game. How are they going to get there?
Well, we haven't done for a while, have we? Certainly not in the Ashes.
No, but the West Indies aren't that strong side. I mean, this is it. I mean,
but the bowling doesn't have to be all that strong at the moment for to be too strong for England's top order.
Let's see what sort of pitches are prepared over there.
Well, the last 2 or 3 times we've been there, the pitches have been not good for batting at all.
Spin friendly fairly early.
Spin friendly and the ball going past the bat, on regular instances, and you can't see. They're not going to take Hamid. They can't take Hamid. There's just no point. So who are the openers going to be? Are they going to call Sibley back? Are they going to have Crawley and Burns opening? Who's going to be at number 4? Assuming Stokes is going to go. I assume this Bairstow ton has kept him in for a year.
Oh, ridiculous. The old boys club.
Yeah.
You come again. In you come. This is your 5th, 6th, 7th chance. Come on.
Well, presumably it just depends whether they change, Silverwood before they go to the Windies. If they don't, and I presume it was the same group of players, if they do, then someone might have a clear out and go, right, I'm going to get some of these young guns in. And I mean, look at the T20 squad. Jesus, there was Harry Brook was playing Leicester. I've never seen him.
Didn't look much like a T20 player. Looked like he might have,
They should have picked David Brook. That's what they should have done.
Yeah.
Good game yesterday, actually. It was quite exciting.
Well, talking about pitches in the West Indies, they play on something like that marble top they had yesterday, where I mean, Rovman batted superbly. I did sort of say that's one for the Rovman's yearbook. He was tremendous. Look, Fred puffs out his cheeks. Yet another lame gag from Grubby. But yeah, so you might get one or two services like that. Who knows?
Yeah, but it's got to be for 5 days, isn't it? I mean, that's 40 overs.
The West Indies are not idiots. If you think that the England batting lineup is shot, then you're going to make sure that the wickets are not batting friendly, and you're going to back your bowlers to knock over England. And England have got a reasonable bowling attack. Presumably, they will try and pick a strong bowling attack and play them in as many games as possible. But West Indies at home. I mean, the last time England won the West Indies, England lost in 3 days in Antigua on a very, very difficult surface. And at one stage, Stuart Broad went past the bat something like 20 times, and Bravo somehow managed to hang in and score runs, even though he was beaten more than anyone in the history of ball tracking.
Beaten more than Vitas Gerulaitis against, who was it? Was it Borg?
It's going to make a domestic incident joke there, but I won't. But and the pitches are going to be tough. They're going to be tough to bat on. And they're going to say, well, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be our bowlers against your batting lineup versus your bowlers against our batting lineup. And we think our batting lineup is going to score those 15% more runs, and then we're going to win the games. And that is something that England are going to face wherever they go in the world.
Yep.
I mean, they had an absolute disastrous. How long ago was the India tour?
That India tour, man. That first Test match in India, they put a half decent wicket out, got beaten. And then they decided to doctor everything ever since,
That's true.
I've said this many a time. That series came down to about 4 innings: Root's innings, Rohit Sharma's innings. Someone else scored a ton somewhere else, and Rishabh Pant, didn't he, scored some runs somewhere? Yeah. And in the last test, someone else scored. I mean, there were about 4 innings that won that test. Everyone else.
That's true. And any Indian listeners who are saying we're just whinging poms who are complaining about this.
You're absolutely right.
Joe Root took 5 for 8 in 1 innings.
Exactly.
So, what does that tell? And they were all top order batsmen, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean those pitches were horrors. But I said at the time, you're entitled to home advantage. And,
yes, you are, absolutely.
And you do that, fine, you win, but don't, you want to cry about that, fine, cry about that. But you put those pitches, India play that against virtually any team in the world, even some of the, some continental teams who play spin all the time, they'll still win. Ashwin's the best probably spin bowler in the world. Jadeja's really good at home, and Axel Patel just bowled darts, and they do all sorts. So
Axolotl Patel, yes. The question is, though, wherever England go, they're going to. The same thing's going to happen, because everyone's going to say we're not going to give them a chance to score some runs, because England have a decent bowling attack. They've got they've got 5 or 6 seam bowlers to choose from, even with the mindless rotation that can hold their end up well all over the world. But as long as the batting is as it is, then they're going to be facing terrible wickets everywhere.
Well, England's most important bowler in the West Indies might well be Mark Wood. I mean, he performed brilliantly the last time we toured there. He was arguably
in 1 game, I think.
Well, if you win a game, 1 game, that's
yes, I know.
But shabby. Anyway, he arguably, I'm not saying definitely, but arguably was England's best bowler on the recent Ashes. Daybarkle.
So he was, yeah.
And so he could really. I would select him, if at all possible, for every game in that series.
Well, there's 3 tests, aren't there? I mean, he played 3 tests in a row. I mean, everyone goes, can't play 3 tests in a row. But I mean, if England, if he has to bowl 20 overs twice in 5 days or 4 days,
and then he get dropped for the first.
Tamal Mills was just rested after bowling 3.1 overs in about 6 months. So. And he was rested for the next game. So,
would you rather be rested or rotated?
It depends who was doing rotating.
Question for the chickens out there.
You see, Collingwood came out in firm defence of the side today.
In defence of whom?
England. Saying he didn't stand a chance.
Is he on the
No-
payroll?
No, yeah, of course he could. No side would have stood a chance considering what England had to go through. They shouldn't have had to go to the Ashes after they'd done the World 20. Bubble life is, destroying people's mental.
Yeah, and yet strangely, we didn't call off the Australia tour for the reasons that are now being cited, for which we called off the Pakistan tour. So, he's only ever going to get slaughtered for what he said there.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'm not in favour of cancelling tours just because you think you're going to get gummed. That's not a
no, but there is something.
I understand that, but I mean, it's something that all international cricketers are having to deal with in some respect. Look, I mean, India just got well beaten in South Africa, which you wouldn't have expected to happen. Touring is over the last 20 odd years has been very difficult, or rather, getting results. In away
we won
games and
South
away
Africa
series
2 years ago.
We did, yeah, we did, and they played very well. This South Africa team actually stood up a lot better than I thought they would, under some difficult conditions. On tricky wickets against an exceptionally good Indian attack.
Yeah, some good games.
They batted really well.
They batted really well in the fourth innings in 2 games, didn't they? I mean,
that's the hardest. That was when the pressure's
the
on
hardest
most.
thing. Exactly, but it was a really weird series in that respect, wasn't it? Because the 2 games that they won, both sides were bowled out for like 230, and South Africa were always behind on the first innings by about 20 runs.
Always the most exciting games.
And then always managed to bowl them out for a similar score in the second inning. And you thought, they got 240. They only scored 210 in the first inning. And then they do it. They won by 8 wickets and 7 wickets, didn't they?
Yeah, and it really broke the back of those chases particularly well. I mean, it helps when you've got people like Elgar, who is
a rock,
the nuggetiest nugget in Nugget land,
as Steve Davis called him,
Nuggety McNugget.
They've got the basis of a decent team, and at home, if England were going there next month, I wouldn't give England a prayer.
No,
I don't know. England seem to like South Africa, don't they?
Is that the Ashes done then?
Yeah. Let's move on.
Unless you want to, because I've got drawn in again last night watching the women's Ashes.
I watched about half an hour of it, and I wasn't. Okay. I wasn't hugely impressed with the quality on show, I have to say. Although one of the England bowlers had a formidable fast bowler's arse, but not the pace to go with it, I have to say.
I was wondering whether you're allowed to say that in the women's.
Well, I've just done it.
Yeah. Well, not you. Personally,
I mean, we can talk about Lungi and Gidi's backside, so why can't we talk about whoever the England bowlers
Very true.
And your shrub soul.
The point I was going to make, going to move swiftly off that, is I flipped over to the channel, and just as Nat Siver had got Elise Perry with that short ball, so we got 2 early wickets, and then there was a mini recovery, and then just as I flipped over is when Perry got out. And bear in mind, Perry has scored,
400 odd runs.
Not been out for under 200 or something in the last 5 innings, something ridiculous in Test cricket. So I thought, here we go.
Well, that's about one game a year, isn't it?
Well, that's another thing. But then came about 4 hours, which took me right back to the men's Ashes, where I'm just sitting there going, "Oh, please, can we have a wicket, please?" Yeah. As they've slowly built and built, and it was a lovely moment. Well, not lovely if you're me or England supporters, where Nat Siver dropped one at slip off her wife, off Catherine Brunt, and I thought to myself, imagine dropping a Test match catch off your wife. Imagine the trouble you'd be in.
Yeah, Danny, that's not going to bode well later.
What would happen to you, Bear, if you dropped a catch off your wife's bowling?
I wouldn't be at home, I'll tell you that. I'd be out and about. letting her calm down for about 24 hours. That'd be the wise thing to do, I would think.
So I did play in a game where a dad dropped a catch off his son, and it may have been a hat-trick ball, possibly.
Oh, that is good.
And he was a young kid. He was only about 11 or something, and he was
11-year-old kid on a hat-trick.
Yeah, it was. No, it couldn't have been a hat-trick. That would just be too ridiculous. But he certainly dropped an absolute dolly, his dad, at mid-off, and he was mortified. He was absolutely mortified, and his son was consoling him, which is the wrong way around.
The wrong way around at all. I'd be swearing like a good one.
Yeah.
It's like when I dropped Louis' absolute sitter in our last Guerilla game we played
Louis-
against the Garden.
Louis Bishop.
Louis Bishop, yeah, just spooned one up, and I just stood there. Did pretty much what Mike Gatting did in India, except I can't say that the sun was in my eyes because it was overcast. It just went. Then caught an absolute belter off my own bowling, one-handed, and someone smashed it back past.
Just to show that you could do it when you try. Yeah.
Very much the Josh Butler of outfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Well.
Anyway, so that
that's the women done.
That day in Canberra, as Genghis Khan may have said, that day in Canberra just left me. The parallels between watching the men's team suffer down under in recent tours were stark. And basically I went to bed after 4 a.m. feeling a bit hollow and weepy.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say
there were other channels around at that time.
Yeah.
Even they packed in by then.
I mean, Australian women are just by far and away the best in the world, aren't they? I mean, they actually have a proper professional structure. I mean, we do now, but I mean, their professional structure is so much better than
they're
ours.
very good. We've got a good team. I don't think we're quite as good as them, but we've got some good talent in there. But when you drop those kind, Heather Knight dropped on early doors as well. I think it was Meg Lanning, dropped her in 14. She went on to make 90. These mistakes you can't make.
Yeah, you can't make them.
Yeah,
can't make them.
So there we are.
Oh well.
So it's just one.
We're halfway. We're halfway
game. 1 2 innings game in this.
It's
series.
It's a 4-day 2 innings game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the one of them.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, in amongst some 2020s and some 50 over games.
Well, the fact that they've had 2 games called off means that we're probably still in with a shout, isn't it?
Well, it's 4-2. We got walloped in the first game that was played. 2 more games were washed out. We're in the middle of, almost halfway through this test match. This may well be rained off, by the way. Next 3 days in Canberra look absolutely slosh fest.
Okay.
So we're still in it, having sort of done nothing really in the series.
And it could come down to a coin toss on the 5th ODI or 3rd ODI. Get a lucky break, come home with the ashes. Sweet.
It's all up for grabs, lads.
Woohoo!
Not sure what to make of that slogan, but anyway, well, so we've done English teams in Australia. I suppose it's time for a segment. Is it time for a segment? And
Chocolate orange.
Grubby, do you want to lead us off with a segment?
Can do. As you know, dear listeners, I like to trawl the polluted waters of Twitter for some boring cricket content. And oddly enough, we're spoiled for choice. I've got 3 candidates for this week's boring cricket tweet of the week. And I'll start, as we so often do, with something Welsh.
Yes.
Here's a tweet from a man called Adam Evans. He says, "Great to see Glamorgan planning on returning to grounds across Wales, showing once more how we already have a Welsh cricket team while also enjoying the unique benefits of our single cricketing jurisdiction with England."
I fell asleep halfway through that, I have to tell you. So it's well up there.
It's in pole position, isn't it? It's in pole position. Adam Evans.
Jurisdiction. Well done for jurisdiction, though. That doesn't come into many cricket tweets.
Jurisdiction. It's very pleasing to say in a Welsh accent, actually. But apart from that, Adam, fucking boring.
Yeah.
Right. The second candidate for this week's BCTOTW, which is actually longer to say than boring cricket of the week, is from Saj Sadiq, who's the Pack Passion editor, in case you don't know. Now, tell me, is this news or should this be news? He just says, Australia Chief Selector George Bailey. By the way, anything featuring the name George Bailey is immediately boring. He's a non-entity of a human being. Australia Chief Selector George Bailey has confirmed, like it's been said previously, has confirmed that no Australian player has asked to be left out of the squad that is set to tour Pakistan. No one's asked to be left out.
So excited, waiting for a scoot there.
And you could add on to the end of that yet.
Yes, before the tour gets cancelled. Right at the last minute.
When you say, is this news? I mean, frankly, I get that every time I pick up a newspaper or read a news website. But
What, you get
okay,
news every
carry on.
time you pick?
No, I say, is this news?
Sure, right. Now, for the third candidate, I'm going to have to revert to our WhatsApp. This is why I parked this message here earlier on, chaps. Right, this is from somebody called Abhishek, not our very own Abhishek Chopra, I don't
Lots
believe.
of Abhisheks out there.
Yeah, I
Exactly,
imagine there
exactly.
are.
It's not from Abhishek El Chopernos. It's from Abhishek on Twitter, let's call him. And his tweet reads thusly. Rohit Sharma and Rahul Dravid both are fantastic pair. They both have played enough cricket for India, and guys will give the best shot in the upcoming World Cups. Boring enough in itself, you might think, but then he finishes it off with, God of cricket, Sachin said in Backstage with Boria show.
Boria was that
Boria?
weird.
We know Boria.
Yeah, exactly. Boria was the one who caused so much mayhem on the World Cup.
He
cricket
didn't cause mad.
But
He was
he-
a nice bloke. He was.
He was, but he was it Shilpa he wound
He
up?
pissed off Shilpa, yeah.
Yeah, he did, didn't
Or
he?
she,
Yeah.
she pissed off him.
Lads,
Um,
back to the task in
Back
hand.
to the
We-
top. Yeah, no, that was a
we've
very
got-
boring tweet. I didn't actually understand it, but to be fair, he's probably, it may not be his first language.
It's yeah, no, well, but still, there's no excuse for being boring, even in a second language.
No,
I think
that's true. That's
innately,
true.
I think that is the most boring tweet.
because
I don't know, I'm always tend to go for Wales though.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I'm tempted to go for Wales as well.
I
you
do
see.
lean towards Wales. I do lean towards. But before we reach a definitive decision, I just want to check. Yeah, so Abhishek's account, and we should give him a full shout out. Abhishek 099, if you want to follow him. But why would you?
How many
his-
followers does he have?
His profile over 1,000.
Oh,
His profile is I am a greatest fan of Rohit Sharma. Without watching him, my life is nothing. Please follow me if you are a cricket lover.
right. He's getting my vote. I'm sorry, with a fucking Twitter bio like that, he's got
we
my
I'm a
don't-
vote.
bit disappointed that
Most
you're trying to
boring
sway
Twitter
the voting here because you haven't told us what Mr. Evans
Yeah, this is true. What?
or Saj Siddiqui have, you haven't put their profiles up. So I think you're trying to rig the vote. And quite frankly,
As I do every
I'm
time.
disappointed in you, Grabby. The boringness of the tweet should stand or fall on its own merit.
It should. You're right,
Yeah.
but as you know, nothing is without context, Fred.
Wales. I'm voting for Wales.
Bet
Jurisdiction.
Yeah,
jurisdiction.
I like the Welsh accent, but I'm sorry, Abhishek for me.
Well,
is
Grabby, you've got the wrong casting vote, haven't you?
Wales.
Wales
All day long.
This
All
is
day long.
the least favourite cricketing podcast in Wales, which I think is the title for this week's show.
While I was doing my research, I did happen upon a couple of other things that may be of interest. I came upon a joke, and maybe this will recurry favour with some of our Welsh listeners. I don't know. And I've also got a fun fact from Peter Miller. Do you want both of those?
But
Yes.
go on.
While we're
hear
here,
them, whether we like them or not. Go on.
may as well. So the joke is from the Jaswi Udupa. It says, how do most Welsh batsmen get out? And then in brackets he says, and China if they played cricket.
What?
Oh,
Say that
dear.
again.
How do most Welsh batsmen get out?
Is this a joke that's going to get us in trouble with other members of Guerilla Cricket?
No.
Probably.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Possibly. Don't know why. Do you want to hesitate? Hesitate?
No, we're not going to.
Would you like to hesitate or hazard a guess?
I'm not going to hesitate a guess either.
Apparently, these are the only two countries in the world that have a connection to this mythical beast. Oh, there goes a clue.
Mythical beasts.
How do most Welsh batsmen get out?
Something to do with
They
dragons?
drag on.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Oh,
They
yes.
drag on.
Oh,
Drag on.
That's fucking appalling.
I
That's
enjoyed it.
something
There.
that's
I loved
something
it.
that Grandpa
In
Bishop would
Somerset, they
come up with.
wyvern.
Grandpa Bishop. Is that his name now?
I just made that up. I hope he doesn't. Well, he'll listen to this and he'll tell me. That's how I check that he's listening.
Why? Not necessarily. We don't listen to hit podcasts. Sorry, Tony. Yeah. Okay. Drag on. Very good. What was the good fact from Peter Miller?
Peter Miller comes up with this one from last night's game. Always topical. The T20 in Barbados. It says Phil Salt is the first made the first international 50 by a Welsh-born player since Imad Wasim scored 50 not out against Australia in 2019. So over 2 years between drinks for Welsh international batters there.
Good
Welsh
innings
born.
by Salt yesterday. Actually, that was
Yeah,
cracking knock.
Of the earth.
Yeah.
it was a grievous assault, I thought.
Oh.
And I know he's played a few 50 over games for England last summer in like the B or the C team.
Yeah.
But I've been calling for it again, not after timing. I've been calling for him. It was his debut last night, his T20 debut. Can you believe that? And he's batting alongside Brooke. Sorry, Dave, for the family diss. Who looked like a what's the equivalent?
Dragon out of water.
He looked like a dragon out of cave.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was even saying, didn't Brooke score a fantastically quick 80 in the strange 16.4 over tournament in the summer?
Maybe it just wasn't his day. But he did. When you're facing a required one rate. Jonathan Wass just entered. When you're a required one weight of 13.5 and you score 10 off 12.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I'm turning into Andy Ward here, but that is almost unforgivable.
It was. I think I probably mentioned that at the time.
And at some point, he looked like a number 11. He just couldn't get off strike.
Yeah.
He couldn't lay a glove on it, literally, or So I know it's a tiny little survey, but
they had to stop the game because Livingston apparently puked up on the pitch.
Oh yeah, he looked well sick.
He did. No, presumably not. But I mean, shouldn't have been.
When you mean on the pitch, do you mean on the outfield?
Yeah, somewhere like that. I mean, they went off for like 4 minutes. Of course, we haven't got a sound on. It's like, why the fuck are we seeing all these bloody replays again? And then,
or do you mean the strip, the actual, not the wicket? We must
not the wicket.
We
No.
call it the wicket. It was the outfield. Okay. Top segments there. We've introduced a new one, which is Grubby's vaguely interesting fact of the month.
Make apparently, an acronym out of that.
I seem to remember I had a segment in the last couple of
wasn't it Fred?
Podcasts, but I don't remember what it was.
It was something about on this day in history, wasn't it?
Oh, was it? Oh, well, it was to
do with historical facts.
But I'm going to bring something from the back life of Titmus and ask you, either of you, have you ever caught a ball in the stands at a professional cricket match?
No.
That was pretty short.
Because I have once.
Oh.
At a county championship game.
I love this. He asked the question because he's got an interesting answer to it.
Well, yes, and it was
you win a prize.
A tremendously interesting game. No, I wasn't wearing an orange bucket on my head or wearing a particular coloured T-shirt, and therefore going into a draw for $1 million. It was a county championship game at Uxbridge, which don't tend to have those kind of sponsorships. But I don't wonder if either of you remember the golden summer of 1990.
Was this the year of the bat?
It was the year of the bat. Look you. Some context for our listeners who are not old enough or not English enough to remember. 1989, the previous year, had been a wet, miserable summer in England, and bowlers had taken wickets at an extraordinary lick, and nobody was scoring any runs. And it was felt that something had to be done about it. And before the 1990 season, they tampered with the ball. They reduced the seam so that it was almost flat with the ball itself. Rather
what like a kookaburra?
Yeah, and
it was almost like an innie.
Unsurprisingly, more runs were scored that year than any year before or since. And I mean, vast numbers of runs were scored. I've actually got the averages open in front of me. Graham Gooch was top of the averages, 2,746 runs.
Fucking hell. In how many games?
101.7.
2,700 runs.
Were 30 innings.
Fucking hell.
Vast numbers of people scored. I'm looking at something like 40 people averaged over 50. And it was an astonishing. I mean, well, his highest score that summer was a Test match. Actually, it was 333 against India, and he scored 123 in the second innings. Anyway, it was an absolute golden year of the bat, and these were still 3-day championship games, so no wickets were being taken. So there was a fair bit of contrivance going on, which was disappointing, and in some respects led to the end of 3-day cricket. Because it was felt to be untenable because people were giving runs away. Middlesex were playing Somerset at Uxbridge, but
there weren't any stands at Uxbridge, were they? So you weren't actually in the stand. You were just
they weren't stands.
You were standing in the field.
There were chairs around the outfield.
Did you say Somerset?
Yes, it was Somerset.
It's always Somerset.
Well, Jimmy Cook scored, who had an unbelievable year that year
Yep.
for Somerset. He scored 2,600 runs at 76.
Fuck.
I remember seeing
900s and 1150s.
because my parents took the Telegraph, still do.
I mean,
My mum apologises daily, by the way. Hello, Barbara. But the cricket coverage was superb.
Yeah.
And I remember just thumbing through the scores every day. And Jimmy Cook,
I mean,
guaranteed 50 plus.
It was guaranteed, and I mean, even batsmen as ordinary as, sorry to piss off the Welsh, Hugh Morris, had 10 hundreds and averaged 55 in an English season. Anyway, Middlesex were playing at Uxbridge, and Somerset got 450 odd in the first innings. Middlesex declared behind at 300, and Somerset set Middlesex on the last afternoon 370 to win.
Here we go.
69 overs, which is fair going in the Championship when you don't have to have fielders in and whatever. But as I say, it was a year when the sun was out most of the year and the ball wasn't doing anything and batting was simple. At one stage during the Middlesex chase, they got a bit bogged down, even though they were going for it. Desmond Haynes hit 100 at the top, and Ramprakash came in at 4 and was batting well, but they got a bit bogged down, and Somerset thought, well, we've got to keep this alive. So they brought Chris Tavare on. He brought himself on. He was the captain for 1 over to keep Middlesex interested. And that over went for 20 runs. He lobbed up a couple, and one of them went for 6. No, sorry,
You caught it.
3 of them went for 6, and it went to long off, where sitting near the side screen was myself and a friend. And without getting up, I leaned backwards, stuck out my right hand, and it fell absolutely perfectly into the palm. And nonchalantly taking the applause of the 70 or 80 people that were there. No, actually, there was a good few hundred people there. I just lobbed it back in one swift motion. And it occurred to me that's the only time that's ever happened to me.
You'd have been what, 24, Fred?
I would have been 23, something like that. So in absolute peak physical condition. Pictures are available somewhere on the internet.
I have seen pictures of you when you were young. It's quite amazing.
I've seen pictures of you when you were young as well. Middlesex won it in the last over. In fact, we won with 1 ball to spare.
Exciting stuff.
They scored 371 for 6 in, as I say, 68.5 overs. But the last ball of the penultimate over, a new batsman had come in, was on strike. He subsequently became a big shot in the England camp at various times. Paul Farbrace, who came in with, I think, 14 runs needed to win off 7 balls, and he had to face 1 ball at the end of the penultimate over and hit it for 4. And that basically won the game, because they only needed about, whatever it was, 6 or 7 off the last over and got them with a ball to spare. So that is basically my potted history of 1989, 1990, Chris Tavare's 1 over, my catch on the boundary, and Mark Ramprakash 146 not out, winning the game for Middlesex. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, A, brilliant.
Thank you.
But B, it was only 1990, wasn't it? It's not 89-90, because we don't live in the Southern Hemisphere. And
no, I told you the story of 89. There's a season of 89 and 90. I told you the.
I see. You weren't claiming it was the season 89-90.
No.
That would be patently ludicrous.
Yes.
I was probably spangled in some bar in Manchester. Can't really remember a lot of those 3 years from about 1990 to 1993.
Spangles, the only sweets I've never liked.
Are they sherbets sort of things?
No,
they were hard
boiled
sweets.
Boiled sweets, yeah.
That tasted of fruit.
Yes.
And also disappointment.
Yeah, they were kind of like Fox's Glacier fruits, but worse.
Like a sort of burnt tire.
Yeah, and they came in a weird.
Why that wouldn't catch on, actually.
Yeah. Some people love them, apparently.
Yeah.
Burnt tire aficionados.
Not me.
I could do my segment, but there aren't many interesting stories.
What is your? Oh yes, the Daily Mail.
You have to look at the sidebar of the Daily Mail, don't you?
No, yeah, but they're all. I mean, this is it. I mean, all the stories that you think of, that there's the bloody dog that chased the sausage out from fucking what's her name.
He says that like we know that story.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
It's been on the news. You don't know that one?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there's the dog that was trapped on mudflats for 4 days, and then they got a drone and they put a sausage on the end of it because obviously it's in mudflats out somewhere in West England.
Canvey Island?
No. It's kind of.
Oh no, sorry, West.
Yeah, west, sort of.
Not get much
North
eastern than
Devon
Canvey
coast or
Island,
so.
can you?
I think anyway. I couldn't be bothered to pick the story out because I thought everyone knew it. And then basically the dog was trapped
Why
out
would everyone know that?
because it was on the bloody 6 o'clock news for crying out
Who
loud.
watches the 6 o'clock news?
Well, it's on every bloody news. It's on 9 o'clock, to fucking 7 o'clock on Channel 4, whatever. It's one of those. And did you know this bits at the end of the news? So this little dog was stuck out on the mud flats, and they basically couldn't get it in. And of course, it was too boggy for them to get out. And the tide was going to come in. The dog was going to die. And then some crazy man, well, the life drone saving people decided to stick some sausages on some strings on the end of some drones, and they managed to entice the dog off of the mud flats with a.
It sounds like an episode of Mr. Ben.
Well, it kind of does a little bit.
You said he was there for 4 days,
Yeah, the dog had been out
and the
there for
tide
4
hadn't
days.
come in for 4 days.
Well, he must have been in a safe, but I don't know. I mean, this is it. It's all a bit
I've
nefarious.
got some questions here, Bear. I
Don't
don't
ask
think you were
me.
paying all that much attention, actually.
It was just a fluff story at the end of the news. But here's a fluff story that's not fluff. This is one for poor men to think about. You might have seen this one on the news as well. Oh no, it's not actually been around. Impotent man's partner accidentally sprays insulation foam inside penis during sex. There's a kind of pattern emerging. Accidentally. Well, apparently this guy's, has erectile dysfunction, and apparently been sticking straws in it to keep it up. And then one day his wife or his partner, they went with a straw. Those big cans of expanding foam you put around windows and shit from the DIY stores. So I imagine she put one of them in there and accidentally pressed the button.
No one is that stupid.
Well, clearly there are that stupid people there, Grubby, because she did do it.
Well, because it's obviously true what you read.
Well, yeah, I've seen this in several papers as well.
Corroborated.
It's been syndicated to the Sunday Sports.
And
Freddie Starr's hamster.
But the incredible thing is the guy didn't go to doctors for 3 bloody weeks.
Well, I'm not surprised. He was probably not keen on having the initial, interview.
Well, I mean, this is the first time I read it. So the
Or he's
phone
thinking, well, hey, come on.
The phone went through his urethra, and then actually there's a big blob of it in his bladder.
RESPECT.
Get it out. Yeah. Madness.
BLADDER.
I was doing an urethra joke there.
Urethra.
Yeah.
I love that joke.
Okay, I had to explain it just in case people thought I'd gone
No, don't.
completely bonkers.
Never explain it.
I mean, I hate to get all sort of technological, or not technological, what's the word? Technical, but could he urinate?
Well, that was the question that begged why hadn't he gone to the bloody doctors for 3 weeks? But obviously it hadn't sealed, it wasn't airtight, so he could dribble it out.
Well, otherwise he'd be blowing like a massive piss balloon.
Well, exactly. So he could dribble it out.
99 of them,
But apparently then it became too painful, so eventually he went to the doctors.
Oh, God. Bear, can we kill this?
If you've been affected by any of the issues raised in this podcast, please call a different
Get to a doctor.
Well, I realised
they've heard it all before. Just get to a doctor.
Well, and the other story that is...
Oh, no, there's another one.
No, yeah, but this isn't sexy. This is quite an intriguing one.
Hang on. Bear, before you go on, can I remind you that you started this segment that's not a segment by saying, I don't really have a segment this week.
Well, you lot seem to have not heard these stories. I know you don't seem to read the papers.
No,
this is another story I've read a little bit. There's a man who's been stealing unpublished manuscripts, and I read this in another paper. So this dude, who sounds like he's an editor, a publisher, but he's been stealing these manuscripts and not really using them. So he's like stolen hundreds of manuscripts over the last 5-10 years by pretty tricky means. Clearly he's in the know, and so he gets his emails and phishing scams, one letter changed in an email address, and manages to get these unpublished manuscripts. But then doesn't bribe or bribe
he just
anybody.
reads them for himself.
It's kind of like that. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because just before you told us this story, you were saying, I'm surprised you haven't seen these stories. I was going to say, well, none of these have appeared in the Times Literary Supplement. And then you come up with a story that might actually have appeared in the Times
Maybe
Literary
all of
Supplement.
your news is this.
So a guy's been nicking manuscripts from authors and who are
Yeah,
think they're
from
sending them
publishing
to.
houses.
They think they're
Yeah.
sending them to, and are they then
5
not getting
years.
published because they've gone to the wrong address or what?
No. Like, it'll be Simon and Schuster .com, and it'll be
Hello,
Simon
darkness,
and
my old friend.
Shooter, and they'll just miss out the S, and so people just look at the address and go, oh,
Yeah.
this guy, and clearly he worked in the industry because he knew what sort of things to write, so he was getting his
Okay.
manuscripts. But he's not done anything with them, but he's still been
Well,
arrested.
what should he do with them? I mean, presumably the books then get published at some point, or not, or
Well,
get
yeah,
edited, whatever.
presumably, if he really wanted to, he could screw them over, publish them somewhere, self-publish them, leak them out on the internet. But he's
Yeah.
not done any of that.
And
they're
that's
still-
where you can find the worst of Cricket 3.
Yeah.
Wait, one of
Unpublished
the
in this
trailers
man's folder.
from the films that I saw yesterday was for an English sort of period piece with Jim Broadbent as somebody who steals a famous painting from the National Gallery. Because I don't know why, but it's
Is it
one of
based
those
on a
sort
true
of,
story?
it's one of those sort of Oscar bait pieces,
What?
you know.
So he plays
He plays
man who-
an old man who works in a bakery or something who decides to steal a very famous painting from a very famous gallery.
the bakery just off Trafalgar Square.
And it's not quite, the Lavender Hill Mob or whatever, but it's one of these endearing 90 minutes of British slice. You recognise every actor. I know him. He was in what's her name, wasn't it?
Oh
With,
yeah, I love
with,
those.
with that bloke. Yeah, and nowadays
Oh,
you can't
who's
even
that?
you can't
They
even
were-
argue in the pub like afterwards. After you've seen a film, saying, "Was that bloke in Apollo 90?" You go, "No, you're thinking of Forrest Gump," because you just look it up on the internet and go, "Oh yeah, he was in this, and this." It's taking all the
Meatloaf
fun out of it.
died.
What?
Meatloaf died. You just made me think.
Meatloaf died.
Okay,
Yeah,
Meatloaf died.
yeah.
Yeah.
Barry Cryer died today.
Oh,
which,
yeah.
Oh, can we have a Barry Cryer joke before we go?
we
Okay.
can have a couple.
We've all brought one, haven't we?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I'll do a
All right.
couple then. A bloke and his wife are walking along the street, and
I'm
his
laughing
wife said,
already.
"You see that guy across the road? He looks like the Archbishop of Canterbury." He said, "Go over and ask him if he's the Archbishop of Canterbury." He goes, "No, I don't want." He goes, "No, go on." So he walks across the road and he says, "Excuse me, my wife thinks you look like the Archbishop of Canterbury. Are you the Archbishop of Canterbury?" And he goes, "Fuck off." Anyway, so he walks back across the road, and his wife said, "Well, what did he say?" He said, "Well, I asked him if he was the Archbishop of Canterbury," and he said, "Fuck off." And she goes, "Oh, that's a shame. We're never going to find out now."
Oh, dear. He used to be on what was that program that he used to give us?
I'm sorry, I
Sorry,
haven't
I
a
haven't
clue.
a clue.
Yeah.
Not give us a clue with you.
Which I actually saw once in the audience.
I thought he was on that too, wasn't he?
Hang on. You saw give us a clue, or I'm sorry, I haven't. A clue?
I'm sorry, I haven't a clue.
Or both, possibly.
Well, no, I
With-
remember Give Us a Clue. That was Una Stubbs, and they didn't have Frank Muir on it as well.
No, he was on Call My Bluff.
No, it was Lionel
Uh,
Blair and Eunice Stubbs were the team captains.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry, I haven't a clue. It was a long-running radio show. Most of whom are dead now. Willie Rushton, Tim
Of
Brookdale,
course.
Barry Cryer, Humphrey Littleton, who was the chairman, and they're
Yep.
still going with some bunch of modern comedians who are no
Yeah,
fun.
and I'm sure it's still very good. But
Oh.
Barry was the godfather.
It was just king of the double entendre at 6:30 of an afternoon on Radio 4. But they got away with murder.
They did, and this is one I've said many times on air before, but I'll say it again. I don't know whether Barry wrote this or not, but Humphrey Littleton once said, Samantha,
Yeah.
it was, the supposed scorer, she has a new boyfriend, an Italian, and I saw her round the back earlier on licking the nuts off a large Neapolitan. And that's
You put that out at 6:30 on a fucking-
exactly unbelievable.
Yeah.
The Barry Cryer joke I wanted to do. He was famous for his parrot jokes, wasn't
Yes.
he? And there are many. I'll just do one. But I think that they're probably best heard in a row. But we haven't got time, and you wouldn't want to hear it. So I'll give this one. Man has a parrot, and he's quite a badly behaved parrot, and he swears quite a lot. And the man's had some advice from a mate of his down the pub, probably, where he says, "Look, if your parrot is acting up, just put him in the fridge for 5 minutes, okay? And I'll show him what's what." It's like putting a kid on the naughty step. So he gets home. He says, "Right, are you gonna stop swearing?" And he says, "Go off." He goes, "Right." Puts him in the fridge. 5 minutes later, he goes back, opens the door. Parrot's shivering there. Takes him out. He goes, right, I'm serious. You're going to behave yourself now. He goes, yeah, all right then. And the parrot looks back in the fridge and says, what did that chicken do?
Oh,
Oh God! I bet he was corpsing his own joke as well, wasn't he?
No, he told it very straight, as he always did.
He wasn't the
No.
greatest performer, but he wrote some absolutely wonderful stuff for virtually everybody. And one of those people you just think. I mean, I had an interview with him like 2 weeks ago. He didn't sound in any way.
He's
you know,
85. You can just
that's no age. It's no age nowadays. I thought Grubby was going to bring us the story of these phrases that have gone out of use in English.
Yeah.
Somebody was complaining that these.
Oh yeah, there was a good thing, wasn't it? Yeah. I contributed. My mother-in-law has this one. He says, "Awkward as Dick's hat band."
I've never heard that in my
Is
life.
she Jamaican?
Yeah, let's say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the sake of the story.
It went one way and then it shifted in the middle of a word. It was quite bizarre.
But you tend not to go to the northeast of England, though, Fred. I should imagine.
No, I don't. Not not very often. No.
Yeah.
No.
That's where the original Jamaica accent comes from.
Yes. Well, they do say that the original American accent was from Somerset. So there's something for you there.
Exactly.
That's why they mispronounce so many words. Well, gents, I think we've tidied up our segment. What was my segment? So I remember for next time. Mate, I'm going to forget.
So I'm
Changes
probably
every
Day in
time.
history. Oh, in
yeah,
this day in history.
yeah, you caught cats down at whatever
That's
it was,
it.
but I
Yeah,
didn't
but-
think that didn't happen on what the 27th of January, 1990, did it?
No, probably not. No, you wouldn't have got 70 overs in a day.
No.
This time of the year. Not with a current over eights. Gary would have been complaining about it.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a lot. You know, we've had my catch from the boundary. We've had my film review. We've had Grubby's boring cricket tweet of the week. We've had some very painful stories from Bear from the slightly less entertaining parts of the news media. We've dissected the Ashes. We've talked about the women's Ashes. I mean, basically, you've got all this for nothing, you lucky bastards.
Why have you just told everyone what we've done in the podcast? Like, if they've
Because
listened,
let me
they'd
finish
know.
a fucking thought. You know, you're getting all this for nothing. You ought to really sling us a few quid because we never ask for money on this podcast.
That's
But
true.
not us. But you should go to Patreon and bung a few quid at Guerilla Cricket. And if you're extremely unlucky, messengers will at some point release the interviews he did with all three of us and many
I
other
think I'm
people.
out there already. I think I'm in the wild.
Oh, you're out there already, yeah.
I think
Grubby
so.
needs a lot of
Yeah.
editing. It's got to run past the lawyers, I think. And mine's obviously got lost down the back of the sofa. But you know, and that's for patrons only. So
Yeah,
if you
it's true.
want to hear more of us, you're going to have to pay. It's the way it goes. It's the modern world. But apart from that, has anyone else got anything to wrap it up?
No, I'm
We've
good.
been here for an hour. In which
No.
case, see you next time, whenever that. Maybe should we do one before the start of the West Indies?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What's when do we start in the West Indies? 12th,
it's middle
4th of March.
isn't it?
It's middle of
Oh,
March,
early
something like
March.
that.
It's very easy to make these commitments, so I'll just say yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're always the hardest person to pin down as far as dates are concerned. Grab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's because I like to
You have
give
a
it
job.
an air of mystery.
Are you still
Well-
working from home, or have they got you back in the office now?
Home.
Home. Good man.
Right.
So not
Home.
really working at all.
Yeah,
Bye.
Good. Don't tell the boss. Nice. Good glass of wine there.
So till next time, everybody. It's been fun. See you
Yeah.
then. Cheers.
Bye.
Easy.
Oh, so that was the innings of Brendan McCullum. Scores lots of fours because he don't like to run 'em. And here we are waving Brendan McCullum goodbye. Whoa.